So another thing I wonder is like, I really want to mention to others is like, there are quite a lot of transitions also that you have made in your career. Like, you going from being a chartered accountant to being a consultant to also being a record holder in rifle shooting and so much more. Like, anytime along the way, did you ever feel like you were being defined by like your gender or certain race that you belonged to? And if so, like, what were three things you took away from those experiences that you have had?
So I think I've had a couple of these transformative experiences, and I think the first one, the very first experience where I actually got out of the happy bubble that I was living in as a kid, and took up a sport like rifle shooting, where suddenly I found myself in this heavily male-dominated environment. Did not know how to deal with that. Did not know how to deal with living away from home. Did not know how to deal with the pressure of representing an entire nation. So I think my journey as a rifle shooter had a lot of firsts in it. I'm doing this for the first time, I'm experiencing this for the first time, which is why even today I consider it as one of the most transformative experiences of my life. And likewise, later on, from being a shooter to a CA to a consultant, at every stage there has been transformation. But I think three key takeaways that I had from my first transition to becoming a rifle shooter is something that even helps me today. So, firstly, and probably the most important one is don't underestimate yourself. I think that's the worst thing you can do. Like self-excluding yourself from something or discounting yourself beforehand. Only that probably I'm not going to be capable enough for this, or I'm not potential enough for this. Is the worst thing that you can do for yourself. Secondly, also, when you try and do something else, don't let your past failures or your past performances be a yardstick to determine how far you can go. So just because you've not been able to do great in your past, or you've had a rough start, or you've had back-to-back failures, it shouldn't be a way by which you measure how far you go or what potential your career has. And I think thirdly, and probably the most important aspect for me would be, don't let failures bog you down. Many a times everything might go right, but you might not win, someone else might win. So learn to embrace failures, learn to look at them as nothing but a stepping stone to success. Because even if you really go after something, many a times in my life I have really chased so many goals, given it my all, and it's not worked out for me. It's gone downhill. But when I'm really out of that failure, and I look back, I just realized that I'm far more ahead, or I'm far better to where I started off. Or there is always some key takeaway from whatever you do, even if the outcome is not how you're expected. So have these three things. These are three things that I genuinely and sincerely follow, and that is what keeps you motivated to keep going.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think even I've realized that self rejection is kind of the start of everything. When you do that, that's when you're making yourself open to others kind of pointing you down, or like, stepping over you and like, going ahead. So I think that's very important. Like, and I think like, I'd also like to mention the audience is like, the reason I wanted to like, have this coffee chat with you is because I was so inspired seeing at your experiences, and like, you are like a great example, in fact, for like women in India specifically, because I feel like the purpose of this whole channel is to kind of just empower women to know that no matter what stage of life you're at, you can achieve whatever you want. You are a mother, you are a widow, you are a wife, and like there are so many things along with it. And I'm just curious, like, being a mother, being in the work environment, doing so many things overall, like I know many women in India believe that after you get married or have children, it's kind of the end of your dreams. Like, what would you
Totally.
want to say to such people?
So I think I totally agree with that, because I'm very aware of the kind of society that we've grown up with or live in right now. And I think as a woman, you have to put in that extra effort to keep proving to yourself that you're as good as anybody else. Because no matter what you do, ultimately people look at you at, what's the point of all this success? One fine day you just have to settle down, you have to get married. Will you be able to keep up with the pace when you have children? And
Yeah.
these questions don't get thrown at a man. I mean, once he's successful, everybody
Yeah.
just congratulates him. But these questions very naturally come to a woman. In fact, even when I started off my journey as a rifle shooter, I've faced all sorts of vague questions like, oh my God, it's an expensive sport. Your parents should instead invest that money in buying jewelry that they can save up for your wedding. Or if you're going to be training with a 6.5 kg weapon, you're going to develop such a masculine structure. No guy will marry you. and it doesn't make sense. But just for those people also, at every stage I would have to keep performing to the best of my potential, just to prove to them that I'm good as any other guy out there, and I can be whoever I want to be, or I can do whatever I want to do, and I'm not going to take any judgments, and I'm going to walk down by them.
No, that is definitely amazing because I feel like it can be a lot of pressure at times, because like even coming
Hmm.
to like Canada, let's say for me, like, like people have all sorts of judgments about, oh, why are you sending, like, it's a girl child, like, why you're investing so much in her.
Yeah,
She's just going to be married off at the end of the day. So I feel like those ideologies really fiddle with not only you or like, let's say even your parents. And it might make you question at times your existence, or rather you being at a certain place at a particular time in your life. And it's like, should I have to keep doing my best each and every second? And it can be very tiring in that sense. How do you
definitely.
kind of cope with that expectation, or that kind of like, at least I find it as a pressure sometimes that is placed like on your shoulders just because you are a certain gender or race?
So there was this time where all these things used to affect me, and affect me tremendously, because I grew up in a joint family situation. So when you grew up in that kind of an household,
Yeah.
you the kind of upbringing that's given to you is always that you have to care for others, you have to be there for others, you have to
Yeah.
respect your elders. What they say is always right. And then when you have that kind of a mindset, and then somebody comes and tells you something, it hits you more. It kind of questions you, whether are you doing something wrong, are you just supposed to follow these rules and regulations that are imposed upon you. So it leaves a lot of room for personal doubt. But for me, I think the game changing moment was when I started having clarity with respect to how I see myself and what matters to me the most. I think once I knew what matters to me, what are the values that I resonate with or I relate to, and some things that are absolutely non-negotiable for me, I think that the kind of clarity really sorted me out. Then, irrespective of what anybody else said or what judgments were passed against me, or even if things don't work out my way, I know who I am as an individual, and I know that ultimately everything will fall in place. So I think once you have that kind of clarity, things become much more easier, and you're able to deal with all the criticism also that comes your way.
No, definitely. So would you say by having all that clarity, you were kind of able to like redefine yourself in like who you are and like, what you're capable of?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, it was a major redefining process for me, because suddenly I went on to becoming someone for whom everyone else's opinions mattered, or making sure that I am good in everyone else's books, or I have a very good picture in the way others perceive me. Suddenly that just stopped mattering, and the only thing that matters is what I want to do and what I want to achieve. So I think when I started prioritizing myself, started paying attention to that, and absolutely started showing intolerance towards things that are non-negotiable for me, it was much easier.